2 games, thousands of let's plays, hundreds of theories, and even now, one question remains unanswered. How is a skill-based survival challenge like Ultimate Custom Night connected to an RPG battler with Pokemon-style mechanics like FNAF World? At first glance, they don't relate at all. One is a chaotic reflex test full of jump scares and constant micromanagement. The other is bright, cheerful, and turn-based adventure with cute redesigns of merged animatronics. You assume they exist in 2 entirely separate canons, 2 different universes, 2 sides of franchises that never touch. But that assumption is wrong, because when you begin to connect the dots, not from trailers, not from spin-offs, not from the stories inside these 2 games themselves, a shocking narrative emerges. A narrative about 2 children, 1 animatronic, and 2 spirits who are not at peace. This is the story of the crying child and the vengeful spirit, forced to confront their trauma together after sharing a single broken animatronic body. One story told through internal punishment, the other through innocent escapism. One drenched in agony, the other drenched in childhood fantasy. 2 tones, 2 worlds, but the same characters. So let's start with the game that is canonically the closest to our core timeline, Ultimate Custom Night. You, the player, are dropped into a familiar FNAF environment. A dingy office, halls full of cameras, mechanical threats coming at you non-stop. But this isn't a normal night shift. It's not survive until 6 a.m. or even survive 20 out of 5 difficulty mode. No, you must survive forever, because this is not a shift, this is not a simulation, this is not a job, this is hell. Not literal hell, not fire, demons, and pitchforks. No, this is the custom hell, created for 1 man and 1 man alone. William Afton, a serial killer, a child murderer, and a man in a Bonnie chute. And now, trapped souls incapable of dying, held between life and death in a place built just for him. Built by 1 spirit who refuses to let him go. Cassidy, the one you should not have killed. Every animatronic in Ultimate Custom Night, from Rockstar Bonnie to Trash and the gang, is a puppet in Cassidy's hands. This is his revenge, his anger, his creation. The entire game is a constructed torture chamber where Afton can never rest, never escape, never breathe without another animatronic ending his loop. Each animatronic mocks you, laughs at you, kills you repeatedly. Clips of voice lines echo his judgment. Let's see how many times you can be pulled apart. This is nightmare that you won't wake from. You will not be spared. These are not random taunts. They are statements of ownership, statements of power, and every time the cycle resets, Afton faces the same taunt. It's me, Cassidy, Golden Freddy, the vengeful one. But why Cassidy? Why this child when we've never seen Cassidy's death on screen? Why do we know so little about the event that created the 1 spirit strong enough to imprison Afton? The clues come from a strange piece of marketing, the Fall Fest teasers. During the promo for FNAF Secret of the Mimic, we see an image of Golden Freddy sinking underwater, arms limp, motionless, drowning. Was this literal? Symbolic? A memory? We don't know. Nor do we know the exact year, but Scott included it in the timeline of imagery that represents real events before the public existed, and before Dave's death in 1983, meaning Cassidy's death was an early one that predates Charlie's ability to intervene as the puppet. So we have trauma without salvation, a death without closure, a child whose soul was never properly guided, preserved instead inside Golden Freddy, a vessel already unstable with spring locks, full of rage, full of remnants of previous agony. This is the spirit that traps Afton. This is the reason Ultimate Custom Night exists. Inside UCN, Afton experiences fractured memories. Snippets of moments he experienced as a murderer and memories he should not have access to. Things he sees because Cassidy is forcing him to remember them. Often recalls scenes as Torchica stalking prey. He sees visions that aren't his. He hears voices that aren't his. He loses himself as Mr. Hippo monologues endlessly, drowning his mind with nonsense. This is spiritual waterboarding, overwhelming him until he forgets who he is, drowning him in the perspective of those he tormented. Afton is not remembering. Cassidy is making him remember everything for eternity. But eternity is long. In spirit or not, even Cassidy can get tired. And after he ends up torturing Willie Afton, Cassidy becomes bored, empty, lonely. He has completed his revenge, but revenge is not healing. Revenge is not peace. Revenge is not rest. And so Cassidy looks inward, deep into the animatronic soul he shared, and remembers the other consciousness trapped with Golden Freddy, the crying child, Dave, the broken one. Cassidy's rage kept Afton bound, but Cassidy's heart kept Dave alive, buried inside the same animatronic, the same remnant, the same agony-soaked shell. And Cassidy realizes it's time to comfort him, time to rebuild him, time to put him back together, but not as a nightmare, not as horror, not as trauma. Cassidy decides to build something beautiful for Dave. And what we see when we boot up FNAF World: bright colors, cute sprites, happy music, friendly versions of characters who once murdered you. This is no accident. This is Cassidy's gift, Cassidy's creation, not to torture Afton, but to comfort Dave. He built a role-playing game full of innocence, full of friendship, full of leveling up and getting stronger. A world where the crying child can escape the trauma of 1983. A world made from his memories, toys from FNAF 2, plus versions of FNAF Run animatronics, silly enemies, harmless adventures. Dave's childhood stuffed animals became his party members. His memories became maps. His nightmares becomes monsters he can defeat. Every friend who failed to save him in life now protects him in spirit. This is the closest thing to healing Golden Freddy's fractured identity has ever had. But even here, cracks show, because FNAF World is not just cheerful, it is broken, glitched, fragmented, filled with holes in reality, just like Golden Freddy. This is a perfect simulation. This is Cassie's attempt to stitch Dave's fragmented soul back together, bit by bit, memory by memory, using the only medium they have, the power of the animatronics they share. As Charlie, the puppet, wanted to save children, she put souls to rest. She reconnects memories and brings rest to wandering souls. But Charlie could not have saved Golden Freddy, because Golden Freddy isn't one spirit, it's two. The remnant souls and the acting of both the crying child and the vengeful spirit all rolled into one animatronic, as agony is brought from pain and suffering, which the vengeful spirit knew well. Cassie's rage and Dave's regret, countless remnant traces, broken memories, broken identity. When Charlie tried to put Golden Freddy back together, it failed. She could not mend the two souls merged unnaturally by violence. She could not separate agony from spirit. She could not restore one without harming the other. So instead, she left them as they were. One animatronic, two consciousness, drifting inside, forming a storm of emotion, anguish and wrath consuming the metal bear. Cassidy remembering Afton, Dave remembering the joy he never had. Both remember the moments of suffering forced upon them. FNAF World's nightmares, the bosses, reflect Charlie's greatest fear, that baby would kill Henry, her father. She feared that his creations were thinking more deeply than expected, that the monstrous sides of his own work was spiraling. Dave and Cassidy absorbing these fears, blurring their identities together even further. This is why the crying child sees memories that aren't his, nightmares of Henry dying, memories from Afton's victims, fractured visions. These dreams are not his, but through the shared space with Cassidy, he is remembering them. Together, Dave adventures in the world that Cassidy made for him. FNAF World seems like a simple RPG at first. Beat enemies, level up, find chips and bites, explore. But every mechanic symbolizes a spiritual process. Chips are mental defense, bites are emotional boost, glitch zones are fractured memories, bosses are unresolved trauma, and endings are spiritual paths. Admin do telling you to play on hard mode, the clocks appearing in minigames, all of this mirrors FNAF 3 Salvation minigames. They represent pieces of memory that must be collected to free the souls inhabited in two worlds. Dave collects clocks not because it's a game mechanic, but because he is literally collecting fragments of his childhood. Fragments Cassie is surfacing for him. Fragments necessary to reconstruct his identity. Memories requires for the happiest day. And when the clocks are complete, when every memory is aligned, we reach the ending, the happiest day. A birthday party, a final moment of warmth, Charlie placing the mask over Golden Freddy's head, symbolizing acceptance of identity. Not Dave or Cassie alone, but the unified memory of who they were. This fractured piece finally together. Dave could finally rest remembering himself, his loved ones, and his joy. His friends gather around him, all the spirits he knew, all the animatronics he played with, all the imagined companions Cassie built for him. It is the ending he was denied, the childhood he was never allowed to have, and so Dave lets go. His light goes out softly. He finds peace. But Cassidy doesn't rest. Not at first. He's torn. He can torture Afton for eternity, or he can let Dave go and let himself fade with him. For the first time, Cassidy hesitates. All his power, all his fear, all his justified anger weighed against the safety of the only friend he has left. And he chooses peace. He chooses Dave. Cassie lets the memories die. He lets the horrors die. Letting the monster die. He lets Afton go. Not as kindness, but as closure. His purpose is fulfilled. His vengeance complete. And so, the box? Well, what's in the box? It's Golden Freddy's memories. Now laid to rest. The eye of the yellow bear, once glowing with agony and hatred, now dim quietly into blackness. No more torment. No more agony. No more loops. Just rest. The good ending, some might call it. The ending Dave deserved, and the ending Cassidy earned. But that's not where our story ends. No! Why, for that, we have to go back to the beginning, where it all started. Back to the missing children incidents. Back to all of it. Back to where William Afton started. By clicking this video where I made FNAF, where I use all the first 4 games here. Or you can check out my playlist of doing FNAF content. You decide.